Greetings, I'm Ian.
I'm Steve.
This is Downbelow.
And, well, we're actually down below. We are filming this in a basement. By the way, if you'd like us to be able to improve our standard of filming, please consider supporting us on Patreon or just even favoriting, subscribing, and liking our YouTube channel. Share the word if you like what we're talking about.
And on that subject of things that are needed, we're talking about needs that define characters. The first need I'm going to talk about is identification. This is the most common thing that one-off or first falling into the cracks characters in Nuevo Paradiso especially will be suffering from.
Let's face it, even in the modern world, without identification, your options are fairly curtailed. In a future surveillance-based society where everything hinges upon your personal identity, no, really, there's usually not a lot of cash at all. Most places don't take cash anymore. Your identity is very important, and if you don't have one, well, problems happen.
So think for a moment about the modern-day situation of losing your passport in a foreign country, especially if you are traveling to a country which has slightly more troubles traveling to and from your home country. If you're traveling from the United States to Canada, it's less trouble, but if you're traveling from the United States to Cuba, it's more trouble.
Similarly, if during the height of the Cold War you were traveling from the United States to Russia, and you happen to lose your passport in Russia, good luck.
Because you've certainly had your share of bad luck at that point.
Yeah.
In the future society of Nuevo Paradiso and the rest of the world of Downbelow, it is actually a lot harder to lose your identification because there is so much surveillance and so much can be recovered from a computer system using your face print, your voice print, etc.
But records can be corrupted, databases can be difficult to connect with, and various diplomatic maneuverings can make retrieval of that data interesting.
And some places in the world have more, shall we say, opportunities for mishap than others. In Nuevo Paradiso, specifically, we have previously discussed some possibilities that can leave you bereft of this identification.
For
you
one,
could be criminally targeted.
Yeah, the entire identity launderer career is based upon getting identifications into the hands of people who are willing to pay for them, instead of the people to whom they actually belong by nature of, being that person.
There is also much more possibility for error at a place such as Nuevo Paradiso, where multiple different governing bodies have competing jurisdictions. Since there are at least 5 major governments that hold major embassy status on Nuevo Paradiso and claim some portion of the island for their embassy, although not the entire island, and there are places on the island, way more than you might expect for a place that seems to be governed and run efficiently most of the time, that actually don't belong to any government whatsoever. Mm-hmm. The question of who is supposed to restore the identity of this person whose identification has been lost, and whether they have any right to such, can become sticky depending on when they lose their identification, whether that be their credit card, their ID card, or what have you, and what their circumstances are when this comes to light.
Now, the need to restore identification is only one side of the need of identification. The need to obtain valid identification could very easily be the case for a whole bunch of other people. This could range from criminals who don't have legal identification with which to purchase perfectly legitimate things. This could be the case of people who want to maintain 2 different transaction histories, because if everything's tied to your identification, well, everything's tied to your identification. It's not like you can have 2 different library cards.
This relates to other needs which may not be met within the legitimate identification system. If you have a legitimate ID, and why would you need a second? That's probably because you have some other need that is not being met under your original identification. So there is one final category to cover and of people who need it established in the first place, and that is the people who never got it. Those are a rarity in most of the world, because in most of the world, that we're portraying in Downbelow, you are assigned it the first time you interact with the system of the nation in which you're born, but Nuevo Paradiso showcases that some people are born in a place or in a manner that they don't actually fit into one of the systems. This is true for a smaller minority, even within the national territories, but on Nuevo Paradiso, anybody born on the island could potentially be denied citizenship even in the country that their parents hail from.
For instance, even in the modern world, America says that if you're born to one or more American citizens, you are by birth an American citizen, even if you happen to be born in international waters or on foreign soil. Other countries do not have this. Sometimes you could be born within the country to citizens and not be a citizen until you pass certain tests.
So, there can be complications, and we'll talk later in this series about how to use various complications, but this is one of the needs that can define a character in Downbelow. We'll talk about some more needs next time. For now, thanks for falling through the cracks with us.